math feels more irrelevant than ever because there actually is math that kids want to know. My students constantly ask me, why am I not learning how to budget? Why am I not learning how to buy a house? Why am I not learning about how to invest my money? They want to learn mathematical things, but things that matter to them. We don't need louder arguments about teaching methods. We need smarter responses to the reality that kids are living in. And that starts with a few simple, powerful shifts. Hey guys, it's Vanessa and welcome to another episode of Math Therapy. Okay, hear me out. Every single time kids struggle in math, we do the exact same thing. We panic and then we argue about how math should be taught, like explicit instruction versus discovery, algorithms versus thinking, old school versus new school, rinse and repeat. The same thing has been happening for years and years and years. And I'm bringing this up now because in Ontario, our EQAO scores just came out. That's our standardized test that we have once a year for grades 3, 6, and 9. And every single time, it's the exact same conversation. And here's what I would like to suggest today. We are having the wrong conversation because kids are not struggling in math right now because we suddenly forgot how to teach. They're struggling because the world they're growing up in is fundamentally different than the one our school systems were built for. More anxiety, more distraction, less trust in grades, less patience for things that don't feel meaningful. And by the way, I'm not here to say that we shouldn't be talking about how we actually teach math, but I will not be talking about that today because I think we're so zoomed in on that we have forgotten to zoom out and look at the big, huge picture of all of the other factors that are affecting the way our kids learn math. So on this episode, I want to do just that. I want to zoom out, not to blame teachers, not to defend a method, but to ask a more honest question. What if the problem isn't how we teach math, but the context that kids are learning it in? So while I don't have time to go through the very long list of potential reasons kids are struggling with math, I'm going to go through 9 reasons. That's right, 9 reasons that have nothing to do with the way we're teaching kids to do the math in front of them. Are you ready? Here we go. Reason number 1, kids are raised differently now. That is the thing, guys. Kids are raised differently now. For all of the people who are so focused on how we should go back to teaching math the old way, I would like to actually say this. I mean, this is not a conversation about how we should teach math, but I would like you to consider this. The way we raise kids is different than we have raised them in previous generations. Now, this is always true, right? Generation to generation, it's true. But there is a marked difference between the way kids are raised now. They are raised to think more critically for themselves, to advocate for themselves. I have the cutest little niece. She's 3 years old. And the other day I went, "Can I give you a hug?" And she said to me, "I need some space." And I was like, oh my God. We were never taught to say stuff like that. We were taught if an adult, if a family member wants to give you a hug, you just do it. We are teaching kids now to advocate for themselves, to say, no, I don't want a hug right now. No, I need some space. No, I need some time. No, I'm feeling frustrated. This was not stuff that our generation was taught, right? It's not, us as adults now, we're not raised to be able to be that, to be self-advocating like that. We have been consistently raised to respect our elders and kind of do what we're told to do, or there are consequences. And this generational shift is really, really huge because most kids are not being parented that way. I'm not saying all, but I've definitely have noticed this with my own students, is that there is such a shift now between the way they have been raised versus the way my students 10 years ago were raised. So for example, parents now will ask me to monitor whether or not their kids are doing homework. They'll say things like, "Hey, can you make sure that you impart the importance of doing homework to my child, when they're in there for their tutoring session?" 10 years ago, honestly, that wouldn't have happened. It was kind of assumed that kids were going to do their homework or there would be consequences. So I just have to say, again, not every parent is the same, but generationally, I think we can see that our kids are more self-advocating. They are more likely to stand up for themselves. And that's a good thing, right? We want to raise kids to advocate for themselves, to stand up for what they believe in, to think critically and say, hold on, why am I doing this thing? But the problem is, to us, that looks like defiance instead of compliance. right? Like, we're like, "Oh, yeah, what do you mean? Why? Like, just do it because I said you should do it." But we can't assume that attitude as educators in front of a classroom when that attitude is not being imparted at home. And also, I know it sucks for us. I know it's hard. Like, it would be a lot easier if kids just like complied and did what we said. But I think if we zoom out, we don't really want to raise kids that way, right? If we think about our world and change taking place and like fighting systems and like doing, challenging problems that haven't been challenged or solved yet, like we need kids to be able to really step up and step into their own in order for those big changes to take place on a collective level. And that unfortunately and fortunately starts on the individual level at home and in our classrooms. So kids aren't motivated by fear or punishment anymore. They're just not. And that's not a teaching failure. It's a cultural shift, and a cultural shift we should be excited about on the whole. But it does mean we have to re-examine how we are motivating kids in the classroom. Okay. Reason number 2 is that distraction is unprecedented. Like, guys, kids have infinite dopamine inside their pockets. Yes, school and math was always competing with things like TV shows or even like more recently video games or like the internet. But now it's like wild, like TikTok, YouTube, Discord, AI, like the competition is fierce. So like, not only is the competition fierce, like there's so much more to do that's literally in their pockets that they can access it, but their attention is fragmented. They're carrying so much information in their minds because they are so aware of everything. Information is at their fingertips. How many times a day do you think they're getting a piece of new news, seeing a new meme, a new piece of, celebrity intel, even like politics? Like, there's so much new information being fired at them that they are distracted. So kids are not choosing math per se, but they are choosing stimulation above all else. So this is not about rigor. It's about relevance and engagement in a noisy world and how we compete. Reason number 3, guys, math anxiety is louder than ever. Like, I want you guys to think about how, I don't know how many years ago this was, but I remember there were all these articles in the news that were like, if your kids don't know how to code, like they're going to be out of jobs. Like, it's over for them. Remember there was that whole like coding scare, and it was like this whole thing that has happened on different levels consistently. So the coding thing is over now. I think we're over that now. But now it's like, if kids don't know how to program, or if they don't know how AI, if they don't know math, like they're never going to have a job. I remember like a decade ago, there was all of this fear mongering being like, if you don't know math, you're screwed. Like, I remember it was predicted that like 70% of jobs were going to require math. Okay, cool. Except what happens is that fear trickles down. The parents are freaked out because they're like, oh my God, my kid needs to do really, really, really well at math. Instead of being like, yeah, cool. Like, I want my kid to feel good about math, but they don't need to go into like a STEM career. They'll be okay. It's shifted from parents being like, oh my God, kids have to do so well at math, not just for the math component, but because they need high marks, which, by the way, we'll talk about in a second. I'm not even on that reason. I'm on the reason of math anxiety. My point is, parents are more scared than ever. There's all this news being like test scores are lower than ever. Universities are saying that students are showing up unprepared, not even knowing how to add like 1 + 1. So like that trickles down to the parents, and then that fear trickles down to the students. What happens when we are anxious and in fear? Our amygdalas literally get hijacked. We cannot access the prefrontal cortex. We can't perform or disseminate information even though we are capable of doing so as human beings. Stress shuts down working memory. So like now math anxiety is more rampant, which means that kids perform at a lower level. Like they don't perform at the level in which they're actually capable of because they can't access their working memory because their brains are shutting down. So that's another reason why test scores literally are lower. That's another reason you can think about. By the way, I'm not even talking about during this episode the flaw in using test scores as a measure of anything. I'm not even going to be talking about that. So don't hate on me for even mentioning test scores. I'm mentioning it because it's such a hot topic, and I would like to provide other reasons other than like the whole algorithm versus thinking thing, why kids are quote unquote performing worse than they were before. Okay. And like, yeah, I really would like to actually start getting into the flawed system of test scores and how they are not an adequate measure of knowledge, but I will not be addressing that during this episode. It doesn't mean I don't have thoughts on it. Okay. But I just want to stay focused. Okay. Anyways, back to reason number 3, which was that math anxiety is louder than ever before. We just have to remember that kids cannot perform cognitively when their nervous systems are in fight or flight. And we are seeing more of that than ever. And that leads to reason number 4, which is that mental health challenges are higher. We know this. We know this, right? Like anxiety, depression, burnout, trauma, they are real. They are widespread. They are so much more frequent and common that they have ever been in the past. So you have that on the one hand, and then you have math and math class, which is this perfect storm. It can be public because we're often having to answer questions, raising our hands in front of people in class. It is evaluative. There is a right and wrong answer. It is timed. It is identity threatening because we know that math intelligence says so much about you because collectively we believe that mathematical intelligence is linked with intelligence in general, even though that is... We've got to stop with that, but it doesn't matter. I always say this, when someone is good at math, we call them smart. We don't call Picasso smart. We don't call Mozart smart. We don't call Bad Bunny smart. We have different words reserved for them. But when someone can do math, when they can perform mathematically, we call them smart. What does that tell kids? It tells kids that their mathematical identity is hinged upon the premise of performance, and their mathematical identity as being intelligent or not intelligence, well, that says a lot about worth. So think about all of that weight, couple that with the mental health issues already happening. And it's like, oh my God, these kids are in survival mode. They're not in learning mode. So a dysregulated nervous system cannot access problem solving, no matter how good our lesson is, no matter if we're using explicit instruction or discovery, which we don't call it that anymore, but that's not the point. You know what I mean? We have to think about their nervous systems and what's going on with them. Okay. Reason number 5. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking really fast, guys. Are you guys okay? I feel like I don't even drink caffeine anymore. And I feel like I sound like I've had 40 espressos. I'm going to take it down a notch because I feel like I may be making you anxious. Okay. Reason number 5, math feels more irrelevant than ever. How old is our fucking curriculum in Ontario? How old? Sorry, by the way, for US listeners in Canada, curriculum, the word curriculum is used to refer to the content of what we teach. I know that for you guys, curriculum means something different. For you guys, it's the standards. Okay. How old are the standards? How old is the curriculum? Yes, the content, the standards, the Canadian curriculum, whatever you want to call it, the content of what we are teaching. Sure, it goes through a few changes. They're constantly rehashing it. There's a new this or that, but I want you to be honest about this. How new is it really? How new is it really? Honestly, yes, we tweak things. I find we do a lot of shuffling. So it's not so much new content. We just shuffle when it is we're going to teach it. Maybe we're going to teach systems of equations actually earlier. And then we're going to actually move slope to here. And then we're actually going to talk about slope, but we're going to talk about it in terms of rate of exchange so we can introduce it earlier. Fine, but we're not really addressing the core thing here. And the core thing, okay, let's be honest about it, is should we be teaching half of this shit at all? Does any of it matter? Now, of course, some of it matters, but I would argue that some of it does not matter. A lot of it does not matter. So what's happening is it maybe mattered at one point. I love to rant about long division, so I'm just going to do it again because this is the perfect place to do it. Think about it. There once was a purpose to teaching long division, a very strong purpose. Number 1, we didn't have calculators. So you fucking needed to long division to divide big things. Now, that has waned. Okay, the whole purpose of that has waned. Now, when I ask teachers why we teach long division, there is some arguments here and there it's nice to, I've heard teachers say some stuff it's important for kids to learn how an algorithm works, or it's important for them to learn how to do multi-step things, or it's important for them to, or it teaches them place value. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm not going to get into the weeds of that. I'm just going to say if you want to do all of those things mentioned above, there are better ways to do it than teaching them an algorithm that they don't really need to use and they know they don't need to use. Because if you wanted to divide 1,032 and whatever by 27, you would use a calculator in real life. I am not, by the way, arguing that we do not need numeracy or conceptual understanding or to know our math facts. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that we don't need to know how to divide 1,352,000 divided by 27 by hand. More importantly, kids know that. So like, I think we have to just, reason number 5 is that math feels more irrelevant than ever. And this is part of the reason why, right? Like, it's like, first of all, we really should be re-examining for real, not just shuffling around our content. We should really be re-examining it because there actually is math that kids want to know. My students constantly ask me, why am I not learning how to budget? Why am I not learning how to like buy a house? Why am I not learning about like how to invest my money? They want to learn mathematical things, but things that matter to them. The thing is, guys, if students don't see meaning, no instructional method will save you because see reason number 1 that I brought up before, which was that kids are raised differently now. They're not raised to just do what the teacher told them to do what the adult told them to do and to not question it. They're not raised that way. So we do need to give them meaning. So I'm about to go to reason number 6, but let me just do a quick little recap. Okay. So we have gone through number 1, kids are raised differently now. Reason number 2, distraction is unprecedented and everywhere. Reason number 3, math anxiety is louder than ever. Reason number 4, mental health challenges are higher. And reason number 5, math feels more irrelevant than ever. I want you to, I'm going to keep going. I've got 4 more reasons, but if right now you're like, oh my God, this is what I have been saying. This is like what I really want to say when someone tells me that it's time to go back to basics, or when someone tells me how much we need to, stop teaching algorithms forevermore. And like, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, they say that stuff. And what I'm thinking is, no, there are other things we need to focus on. And if I have just listed some of those reasons, please text that person right now, send them this episode and be like, hey, next time we're arguing about math instruction, can we talk about these things instead? Or maybe this is your common ground where you're like, look, I know we both think math needs to be taught differently, but maybe we can agree on some of these things and have a more productive conversation around these instead. Text it to them right now. And remember, text me if you want. You can text the podcast by hitting the link in your show notes if you're like fired up right now and you want to comment on something. Let's go to reason number 6. Grades do not mean what they used to. Okay, so reason number 5, I was saying math is not that relevant because our content isn't that relevant. But another reason it's not that relevant is it used to be this gateway potentially to careers or university admission or college admission. And it isn't all that it's cracked up to be anymore because the devaluing and inflation simultaneously of grades. Right? Like we know that grade inflation is happening. An article just came out saying in Ontario alone in the past 2 years, grades have been inflated by 7%. That is a lot. That means someone who is getting like a 63% is now getting a 70. Like we're going from a C to a B. That's a huge jump. That's a letter jump. Also, research is showing now that across North America, like high grades no longer guarantee university admission. And that just didn't used to be the case. University admission requirements to some universities is cray now. Like there are universities in Canada where to get into a specific program, it's like you need a 98%. Like, what are you talking about? And like, even then, right? I think there was a report last year of 4 students who graduated high school with 100%. Sorry, I know I'm talking in like Canadian terms, but you guys you can do the conversion, 100%. And they did not get into the universities of their choices. So kids see through this system, right? Like this is such a bigger global context conversation about like meritocracy, I think. It's like, effort doesn't really feel rewarded the same way it used to. So not only does it feel like the content of what they're learning is irrelevant, but they're like, and also, where is this even getting me? Like, what is the point? Like, literally, what is the point? So when the payoff disappears, so does buy-in from our students. Without like results or outcome and without meaning, what is the point of math class? And that's why it's like, we've got to rethink. We've got to give them new meaning. We've got to give them a new reward. We've got to be thinking big picture. Now, number 7, learned helplessness. I know you're wanting to throw your phone across the room right now or whatever device you're listening to this on because we know the learned helplessness is real, right? Kids who just like the second you give them a question, they're like, I can't do it, help me. Like they just don't even, it feels like they don't want to try. We talk about them like they don't want to try, right? We're like, oh my God, these kids, they don't want to try, but they literally feel helpless. It's learned helplessness because they are so used to being rescued, not just by you, by fucking AI, right? It's like the second, and I can speak to this personally, by the way, because I am telling you, I am having a really hard time right now. And by that, I mean ChatGPT is ruining my life. Yes, is it making my life better? In some ways, but on the whole, I know it's ruining my life and I can't stop it. Me and David actually went to write an album last week. Okay. We were away writing our album. We're in the studio recording it this month. It was harder than ever. We've been in this band for 14 years. This is our 5th album, I believe. It has never been harder for me to write songs because every time I would get stuck, I'd be like, I'll just ask ChatGPT. And then I'd have to fight with myself to not do it because I was like, no. By the way, guys, I will say right now, I never asked ChatGPT. I realize I'm lying. Oh my God. And David's going to produce this. He's not here. I'm actually recording this solo. He's going to hear this, right? Oh my God. I should stop. It's too late. I'm already talking. David, I'm sorry. But no, you'll be happy to hear this. For one song, I did. I caved. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. I'm stuck. And I did. The answer was actually so bad that I didn't use any of it. And I felt so gross. I was like, oh my God, as if I was going to put this into my art. But my point is, okay, so David, now cat's out of the bag. The point is none of the AI lyrics made it into a single song. Everything's fine. I learned my lesson. But my point is that like, it was so hard because I had completely sunk into learned helplessness, which I never used to be like, especially with art, like with writing songs. Like I've usually been able to tap in and let things just come out and flow. But because I've been using AI so much, it made me get stuck faster. So like, this is the thing is like struggle feels unnecessary and like almost threatening to kids because they're so used to not having to struggle that when they do, they're like, well, I should be able to just get rescued. And then lands the belief that when I get stuck, the only way to get out of it is to be rescued. So like these persistence muscles that we always talk about that we need in math class to like when you get a test and you can't actually be rescued, you need to be able to persist on your own. They're underdeveloped. And this matters for math more than any other subject. Because the truth is, you are going to get problems on a test that you do not know the answer to. You're going to have to persist and you're going to have to fail and like make mistakes and try things and get things wrong, despite the fact that you know there is one right answer and you might not be on the right track to finding it as you are persisting. That's why it's so hard in math. You know there is only one outcome you're supposed to be getting, and you have to be okay with struggling on a path, following a path, knowing the path might not lead you to where you're going to go, but following it anyway, because you might get something out of it. You might get something out of it that you need. Okay. Reason number 8. Guys, this is a hard one to hear, but it's so real. Adults are more anxious too. They are more anxious than they ever have been. Teachers are burnt out. Parents are stressed. Anxiety is contagious in the sense that polyvagal theory tells us that we evolve to co-regulate. That means our energy is literally contagious. Like if someone walks into the room in a huff, you kind of get into a huff. Like you tense up. Just think of it that way. And with that anxiety lingering around everywhere, kids feel that. They absorb it. They feel your anxiety around learning, around math, around grades, around not getting through the curriculum on time, around your class being too big and being frustrated. It's not your fault. You have been put into an untenable situation. Like you are in a hard place. But just remember that kids feel adult panic and pressure. We all feel it. Your coworkers feel it. You feel it. You feel it from your students. You feel it from like the higher ups. We're all more stressed out. And guess why we're all more stressed out? For the same reason students are. We have information at our fingertips all the time. We are stressed out by the weight of the world. We're stressed about what the future even means. Like all of it. So give yourself some grace. Like we are more stressed out and that impacts things. It's not our fault. We are only individuals in a giant system and we are human too. Finally, reason number 9, school has not caught up to reality. That's it. That's the fact. The world has changed faster than our classrooms have. We're still debating methods from decades ago. Kids are living in 2026 and schools simply are not. Think about the way our classrooms are structured. Think about the fact that research now has shown us a billion times over that an ideal learning time for kids is not 8 a.m. Like that's not how their bodies work. They shouldn't be sitting all day. but we haven't caught up to it. We have not changed the model. That's just one example, by the way. I'm not even remember I said I'm not going to talk about instructional methods for math. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm just saying like the school system itself has not caught up to what we know and to where the world is. It just hasn't. So that's a real hard pill to swallow, but it is the fact. It is a fact. And you know it. Look around a classroom. Look at what kids are doing. Look at what their interests are. Look at what tools they have on them. Look at what stressors they're coming into the classroom with. Our classrooms have not caught up to the reality of 2026. And the thing is, guys, it's only going to get worse. Think about it. Technology is moving so quickly, like at lightning speed, whereas schools are just like sludging along. Like this is like a turtle and the hare situation, I feel like. Although in that story, the tortoise won. So it's not like that. It's not like that at all. Just the speeds are like that. Schools are just kind of archaic when it comes to where the world is now. And we have this very interesting, like I feel like there's a metaphor here that I can't think of, but we have this like archaic institution with these like new kids in it, right? These kids that are like, of this time in a system and building that is not of this time, with structures that are not of this time. And then we're expecting them to do just as well as they did before. All right. So that I know that was a lot. And I know that maybe I stressed you out. I hope I didn't stress you out. I hope that now we're just able to think about this in like a broader sense than all we need to be talking about is explicit versus discovery or whatever. Again, I'm not saying instructional debates don't matter, but they're not the root cause. There are so many other factors. And the reason instructional debates grind my gears is that we ignore I've just named 9 other factors and there are more. I'm at half an hour with this episode. I need to stop. But like we are treating instructional debates like they're cause and effect debates, and they're not. And that's what really pisses me off is fine, talk about that as one of the factors if you'd like. I've just listed 9 others. So you better incorporate everything into your discussion of why you feel that kids are performing not as well as they used to. If universities, professors are really like kids are coming in here not knowing stuff they used to know before, fine, we should do something about that. But it's not really cool to then be like, oh, well, it must be because of this instructional practice, because that is bad math. That is bad data. That is bad stats. That is bad research. There are other factors. There are extraneous factors in that argument that are not being considered. And every good mathematician knows that is not how you make an argument. If we keep arguing about methods without addressing motivation, anxiety, relevance, mental health, meaning, trust, we will keep coming up with the wrong solutions to the wrong problem. So if we are serious about helping kids do better in math, here's the part we can't skip. We don't need louder arguments about teaching methods. We need smarter responses to the reality that kids are living in. And that starts with a few simple, powerful shifts that I will just share right now. First, stop motivating with fear. Start motivating with meaning. If consequences don't work anymore, connection has to. Get to know your students. Get to know what matters to them. Start there. And this isn't about necessarily being like, oh, like my students like hamburgers, like I'll make problems about hamburgers. Like that's great too. But research shows that simply connecting to a student, showing them that you're grateful that they're in the room, like they have something useful to contribute, that is a form of connection. That matters. Next thing you can do, assume distraction and plan for it. Kids will be distracted. Engagement is not automatic. It has to be designed. How can you design for engagement? Number 3, treat anxiety as a barrier, not a personality trait. Calm brains learn better. What can you do? You can, again, assume that most kids are feeling some level of anxiety. We just know that that's the reality. What can you do about it? Can you orchestrate a calm moment? Can you get some movement in? Can you have students walking around? Can you have stress balls or fidget toys for them to play with during the lesson? Number 4, make progress visible. If grades don't feel rewarding anymore because they don't feel like they matter as much, growth has to feel rewarding. How can you show kids that they are gaining something from your classroom, that they're learning and growing, not just in math class, but beyond? And number 5, stop taking disengagement personally. I know it's so hard. This is one of the 4 agreements. If you've read that amazing book, don't take it personally. A lack of engagement is often a sign of unmet needs, not laziness. And just going through this list of reasons, hopefully you can see there are so many unmet needs that have nothing to do with you. They have to do with the weight of the world, the distraction in their pockets, the things that kids today are dealing with that we didn't have to, like online bullying, like online everything. There's so much. So don't take disengagement personally. Just gently empathize and find a way to try to reel them back in. And also have some grace with yourself. Like, we are disengaged. We have dopamine hits in our pockets that we're struggling to get away from. We are more anxious. So just remember, we're all humans. Like, yes, they might be like smaller humans, smaller versions of us, but we're all the same. We all have the same needs and wants and desires. So try to find that empathy and remember that you are doing your best. These are just factors and reasons that hopefully will help you realize that it's not you. You're not the problem. And it's not just the instructional method. There is so much going on. And we have to stop having this one-dimensional argument. None of this means instruction doesn't matter. It does, but instruction cannot do all the heavy lifting when kids are anxious, overwhelmed, distracted, and unconvinced that math matters to their lives. So maybe the most important question isn't what's the best way to teach math, but instead, are we teaching kids who live in a completely different world than the one our system was built for? And what do those kids need in order to be ready to learn anything at all in 2026? Okay, guys. Oh my God, I'm tired. I just tired myself out. I hope I fired you up instead of tired you out. Like, I personally need a lot of water. I feel dehydrated right now. And I would love to know what you think. Like, I'm curious. Like, are you like, nope, the only thing that matters is the way we teach math? Like, do you agree with any of these methods I listed? Do you want to add more to the list? Because I'm down. Like, I think it's really important to list all of the factors affecting teachers and students right now that are leading to this like, feeling we all have around kids' relationships with math. Because we need to see the forest for the trees. We need to see the forest and we need to see the trees, actually. We need to see them all. So I would love to hear from you. You can text me by hitting the link in your show notes, DM me at The Math Guru on Instagram, email me, Vanessa@themathguru.ca. I would love to hear what you think. What other factors are influencing this whole vibe going on that kids are showing up to university less prepared than before, that kids don't know their facts as much as they used to before, that kids dislike math more than before? That I actually, by the way, do not feel is true. Like, I feel like most of the population has always disliked math. So I actually don't think that's a vibe. Like, I think there's more of the things that have been substantiated are like, a lot of university professors are like, kids are showing up not knowing what they used to know. And like high school teachers are like, kids are showing up to my class not knowing a lot of the stuff they used to know from elementary. Like, there's definitely something going on there. What do you think the reasons are? Do you agree with the ones I said? Do you think there are more? Add to my list. Let's get a list going. Let's make this a comprehensive like outlook into the state of things so we can stop focusing on this debate that has literally taken up way too much airtime, and I'm actually done talking about it. Okay, as usual, I do have to tell you that Math Therapy is hosted by me, Vanessa Vicaria, your lovely, fired up Gemini host. It is produced by David Kochberg, who has not listened to this episode and is not here during the time of this recording, and I feel like he is going to pass out with how aggro the energy of this episode is, but let's see. The music you're hearing is by our band Goodnight Sunrise. We are currently releasing a song tomorrow, because this comes out on Thursday, February 12th, and a new song comes out tomorrow, Friday, February the 13th. And yeah, if you like this, share it. Honestly, that's the best thing you can do. Share it with a friend, share it with a colleague. Oh my God, how is this episode 38 minutes? David is going to kill me. Okay, bye.